Good evening. So I have been spending some time trying to figure out what on earth is going on with the temple texts of the Temple of Horus at Edfu. Why is this important? Well, this is a temple that has really become famous because of good old Graham Hancock. So many people were telling him that there is no such thing as an Egyptian Atlantis myth. And he said, well, hold on, yes, there is. And then he pointed out this myth about all types of different things. And it was from I finally looked at the source that he was saying for this, that the Egyptians did have a flood cataclysm myth. And the scholar who wrote this was E.A.E. Raymond. I believe one of those E's stands for Elizabeth. So it's weird. Also, there have been a lot of Germans who have been studying this. I was able to, some months ago, in fact, more than a year ago, I think, go on to the website of the Edfu project. Now it's only on the Wayback Machine. And first of all, the E.A.E. Raymond texts, the book, which was very helpfully scanned for me by Tony from the Brothers of the Serpent Discord. Fantastic. I would have gotten not very far at all without that. God, it's all over the place. Sometimes you can have different translations of the Egyptian text that mean utterly different things from the same text. I was able to find it's not a straightforward translation. It's pretty much it feels like someone going over old newspaper clippings of newspapers that talk about World War II. 3,000 years later, and then trying to tell you what went on without giving you a quote that is ever longer than a couple sentences. When I looked at the German site, there was a lot of text, at least what I found, about Hathor coming out of the sky with fire and destroying the earth with fire. None of this was mentioned in the E.A.E. Raymond stuff. In fact, she talks about something. Now, the most important thing, I suppose I can tell the story of this, that really the central piece here is what is called the fall of the sound eye. So before I criticize the scholarly sources, okay, so Plato in the Timaeus and Critias is where our story of Atlantis comes from, this old destroyed civilization. And he said that he has someone in the story say that they got the story from their relatives who got it from Solon, who got it from the Egyptians. Okay, so, and this was at the Temple of Sais, who told it in this version. Well, this is Edfu. We do not have access to any of the texts or even the temple at Sais. That stuff has not been discovered. At Edfu, now, the story of a great cataclysmic destruction is told. And in fact, they talk about an island that was destroyed. And I find it very odd that mainstream Egyptologists say that there is no Atlantis-type story, there is no cataclysm story in the Egyptian tradition. Obviously, there is, not only, and it's not just at Edfu. There's multiple, that old great thing of multiple attestation. I believe within the Egyptian Book of the Dead, there is a prayer in the Egyptian Book of the Dead that mentions the destruction and recreation of the world because of the wickedness of humans and all of that. But so I found this thing. They talk about the island of Trampling. The island of Trampling was a place of the original gods, of the primordial ones. And after this, they were put to, and this is another very interesting thing that you could maybe go into later, is that the place of death and of rebirth was a sea of reeds. If that makes any sense to you fans of the Old Testament, of the older parts of the Bible, the Exodus story also involves the Sea of Reeds, the original Hebrew being the Yam Suf, which is sometimes people say it's Red Sea, sometimes people say it's Reed Sea. I've had it on quite good quite good authority that many of the traditions today that still translate the Deuteronomy Sea of Reeds. So I'm trusting those annotated Deuteronomy books that I've seen on that. So, but this being, when you realize that in Egyptian tradition, Sea of Reeds is a place where one civilization ends, another civilization begins. Old gods die, new gods arrive in a place that is called the Sea of Reeds. And this is done so by the old civilization and the old people who are wicked going under. This is the crossing and the parting of the sea. It fits, the symbology fits in the narrative. So just like the Psalms, just like any number of things, just like the book of Ezekiel, which talks about the new Jerusalem, which shall be created in this vision, in this new temple. And then when you actually plot it out, which the Spanish did, the Spanish rebuilt this thing, it ends up having the proportions of the Temple of Akhenaten. There are all these connections, between the ancient Hebrew faith, which shows connections to Canaanite and Mesopotamian things like the Noah flood, and then there's also, I think, even stronger connections to wisdom traditions from Egypt. So there was some kind. There is a way to interpret and understand the Exodus story as taking a thread of Egyptian culture that believed that the Egyptian culture and religion as it was had lost its way. And the people and the beliefs of Exodus were almost, I don't mean this pejoratively, but a Puritan type reform of that, of which I believe Akhenaten is a parallel echo. Sigmund Freud famously thought that Akhenaten was Moses. I don't think that's true. Most people don't. But he was believing something like Moses was. I think that Akhenaten and Moses were both exponents of this new development of spiritual feeling in Egypt. And this adds a new layer to it that I didn't know until today, about the sea, the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, in the island of Trampling being a place of the death of an old civilization and of old gods, and of birth of a new civilization and of new gods. And so that's this also, I would also count this as multiple attestation of the myths that you find at Edfu. E.A.E. Raymond says again and again that you do not find this stuff in other traditions. You do, but in these very dimly reflected ways. So it's not an anomaly. So there's the island of Trampling. It's an island which was destroyed in an event which involved something called the fall of the Sound Eye. For those of you out there who have been studying what the geologists have been finding out about with the end of the Younger Dryas, with the supposed multiple impact from comets. And she says that the Sound Eye, it's very hard for this person, E.A.E. Raymond, was writing this well before all this science came out. She has no bias where she would want to believe that the Younger Dryas story is remembered in myth. So I there's no bias pushing towards this. There's my bias pushing towards it because I find it utterly fascinating. But she says that she can't figure out what the Sound Eye refers to at all. She says that she says that in these, and this is also very odd, she says that in these texts, there is no reference to any astronomical body apart from the sun. There's no reference to stars. So it wouldn't be a falling star. Well, there is discussion of Hathor, and of Hathor becoming fiery and of coming out of the sun. This has connections to Venus. It certainly has connections to planets. And it certainly sounds like a heavenly body crashing to the earth. So the Sound Eye, it emitted light in the Edfu text. It fell to earth, and it created a flood, and it created darkness. Certainly sounds a lot like people writing about something that could have been a comet or meteor impact. So this is a tip of the iceberg. I'm going to continue to try to figure this out about what's going on with this. I was hoping to find the German translations that I had looked at before. Those appear to have disappeared from online. That was the Göttingen Akademie of Wissenschaft, the Göttingen Academy of Sciences, that was doing that. I don't know if they've stopped because of COVID or what's going on with their funding or something, but yeah, we have to figure this out. I think it's fairly conclusive that Graham Hancock was not making this up. That was my original goal with this. I have now that I've been dissatisfied with Graham Hancock's mentions of the Egyptian Atlantis myth, and then I looked at his source, I need to look at her sources. I need to go one level deeper, because I wish EAE Raymond had included an appendix of the source texts. She did not. We need to find this and figure this out. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, any topics that you'd like me to ramble on about, anyways, I'm sharing these pieces of thought every night. Won't always be about Egypt, but a fair amount of it would be. But like, subscribe, yell at your computer down below. So thank you very much.